Hey everyone, it's Keely here for Soy and Shea, and thank you so much for joining me for today's video where I have just unboxed the xTool F1 Laser Engraving Machine, and I am so excited to have a play with this one. I have seen so many videos and things out there that really have got the imagination going with what this machine can potentially do. It is meant to be the fastest, most portable laser machine that is on the market. So you can actually take this machine with you to things like craft fairs and do on-demand etching while you are there. And it also features two different lasers, a blue diode laser and an infrared laser. And using the combination of these two lasers means that the machine can actually work with 300 or more different types of materials. Whereas with most other laser machines, you are restricted with the sort of materials that you can use. Now I do have the xTool M1, and one of the materials that you cannot use in that machine for safety reasons is plastic because of the fumes that it puts off. But with the F1, having the infrared laser in there is going to allow us to work on different types of plastics, which has really got my mind sort of whirring. And over the next few videos, I'm going to share with you some of the ideas that I have got for this machine. And because it is portable, I will also be taking it down to the shop and doing some custom work down there as well. So the next thing we're going to do is get the machine all plugged in and set up and get it into the Creative Space software so we can have a play. Now in that box, obviously, we had the xTool machine here. You can see it is nice and compact. It can be carried with one hand. There's a little bit of weight to it, but it's not too uncomfortable for carrying around short distances. And the handle feels really, really sturdy. There's no sort of thinking about whether or not it's going to hold the weight or fall apart while you're carrying it. So it does have a really sturdy feel to it. When I was unboxing it, there was a black foam box in here, and that had a couple of extra parts. We've got the plate, which goes into the bottom of the machine for putting your projects onto, and we've also got this little jig piece, which I will show you how that works a little bit later. There was also this little plate here, which is kind of like your airflow piece for when you are doing cutting of things like wood and acrylic. This sits in the bottom of the machine. You put your material on the top, and then you do your laser cutting, and it allows the air to flow underneath and prevents or helps to prevent any fires that may occur. So that's a really important piece to keep your hands on. There was, of course, also the power supply stuff. We've got cords for plugging into the mains power, and I do have one with an Australian plug, and I've also got a USB cable here to connect to the computer. Now, the first time you use the machine, you do need to plug it in via the cable, and then once it's recognized in the software, you can change it over to Wi-Fi, so you don't have to be constantly connected onto the computer when you use the machine, which is really good if you are out and about with the machine. You do have that flexibility. There is also a polishing cloth for the laser head to keep it nice and clean. We've got a little bit of oil for helping with the side runners on the machine. If it does get a little bit stuck, you put some oil on there and it lubricates it and it can keep going. Of course, we have the instruction manual. It looks really big, thick and daunting, but there are so many languages in here, and I think the actual instructions are only about 10 pages long, but they are very well detailed with lots of photos, easy to follow. We also have this extra little USB stick thing, and this is actually a key to the machine. The machine already comes with one in the back here. Already has one in here, but you do get a spare key, and without the key the machine cannot work. This is a great feature if you are off out at events or you're in a space where there's lots of kids and you don't want anyone using or playing with the machine when you are not present. You just take the key out of the back of it and it will not work, and then you can pop the key back in. So you get a spare one in case you do lose it. And then we have also a little pack of fun playthings, And finally, we have our tube for venting this out through the window. It doesn't matter what sort of laser machine you have, they all do produce fumes and a little bit of smoke. And the best way to get rid of those is with a tube and having that out of a window with fresh air. Now, I am fortunate that I do also have the desktop purifier, so I will be connecting this to the desktop purifier once we've got this set up, but there is that option. If you don't want the desktop purifier, you just use this one to vent out the window. So let's get this all plugged in and then we'll get it into the Creative Space software. Right, so the power cable actually does come in two parts. I've already plugged it in because it was under the desk. You have your main lead, which goes into your power with the type of plug you need. Then it plugs into the converter box that we've got the right amount of power coming into the machine and we do not blow any fuses. And then we take our little plug here on the back next to our on-off button and we're going to pop that one in. Now for plugging it into the computer, we've got our USB cable here and that gets plugged into on the side of the machine, and there are little pictures to tell you which ones it goes into. We're actually going to go into the bottom one and then the other end will go into the computer. Now the next bit you would normally put on is the tube here, and what you would do is connect it onto the bottom of this piece here, and then this end would hang out the window. But as I said, I do have the desktop purifier, so I'm going to get that attached. So our desktop purifier is just a little bit bigger than our M1, but it is super light, very, very portable, super easy to set up. I've already got my power lead plugged in, and on the back here, as with the F1, we've got a couple of different points. They are all very easily identifiable, and we're just going to plug it into our big one here. A really good feature of the desktop purifier is that it actually connects to and communicates with the F1 machine, and we've got another USB cable to do that we connect the two machines together. Then what happens is when you're using the F1 machine, as soon as it starts up and you've got your air purifier actually turned on, it recognizes that and it starts drawing that fume that it's producing into the machine and starts purifying it. It then runs for another 30 seconds once the work is done in the F1 before it shuts off. So that is a really, really clever feature on here. You can also use the machine so that you don't have it connected to the F1 and then just manually turn it on and off as well. There are two settings on the back of this machine. We've got a switch down here for low to high fan settings. When you're using the blue diode laser in the F1, it is recommended that you use the highest setting, and if you're using the infrared laser, you use the low to medium settings. So it's a really clever setup, but we do need to pop in our USB cables to get that to work. And that's really simple to do. The cables are the same on each end, so we're just going to plug it into this one here. And this one, we've got the air fan on this side closest to the key. So these two are now actually connected and will talk to each other when it's turned on. Next thing we're going to do is connect the two with our hose here. Now the desktop purifier does come with a second hose, and it is actually longer than the one that comes with the F1. So I would actually suggest connecting this with between the two machines. So if you need to, you can actually spread them out a little bit, gives you a little bit of extra workspace. This is going to plug into the bottom of our F1 and into the top of our xTool desktop purifier. As the purifier starts to pull those fumes from the bottom of our X1 and into the purifier, I've just taken the lid off so you can see it's going to come through this gap here, and it's going to come through this filtered section in here. Now this desktop purifier does also come with two spare replacement pads as well. It's going to send all those fumes through here, and it is then going to purify that air, and then that air will actually come out through the bottom of this hole here. For anyone that is super concerned about the air that is coming out of the bottom of the machine, that is when you would then use the hose that came with your F1 to connect to the back of your air purifier, and then further vent that out the window if you want to be on that even safer side of things. So let's get our hose all connected. So now that we've got everything plugged in and connected to each other, there are 3 things left to do before we can get that Creative Space program open and getting the machine in and having a play. The first thing it says to do in the book is to check that the key is in place in the back of the machine, which we know it already is. The next thing is to carefully slide this one up, and underneath here where our laser is, we have got a cap which needs to come off, and it simply pulls off here, and that is our laser there. While I've got this open, I'm also going to put our plate into the bottom of the machine. And then I'm just going to slowly close that down. So I'm going to keep this cap in a nice safe place for now, because when I'm not using it, I will keep the cap on there to make sure that no dust gets on it. And it will also be good for when we're transporting the machine as well, to keep the laser nice and safe. And then the final thing we need to do is release our emergency stop button. The machine comes with this already activated, and to do it we just need to turn it clockwise and it springs back out. If you are working on the machine and you need to stop this quickly, you just push the button in and it will break all power into the machine and stop the project. And then you just turn it clockwise and it will pop back out. While this is pressed in, you cannot use the machine. So that is the final thing we need to do. We are now ready to start looking at the software. So as I mentioned, the xTool Creative Space is the free software that comes with all the xTool machines that you can use to create your projects in. So I've got that open on my screen. I have also done the latest update on it to make sure that I have got all of the software details in there to cover the machine. Next thing we need to do is turn the machine on. So the switch is on the back of the machine, and as we turn it on, the light comes up on the front, and we'll just give it a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds. I'm going to lift my little thing up so we can see better. You will eventually see 2 dots appear on that plate. You see that red and then the blue dot appeared, and these are our lasers. So the software has actually picked up that I do have the F1 plugged into it, and it's just come up with this warning saying switching the device will reset the parameters. Now if you have never had any other xTool machine, you will not get this warning. This is only if you have had one of the other xTool laser machines, which have a much bigger work area than what the F1 does. The M1, which is what I was using before this, that has got a work area, I think it's about 30 by 40 centimeters or 30 by 37 centimeters, something like that. Whereas the xTool only has an 11.5 centimeter square work area. So it's just warning me that if I've got any other projects there, they may not fit into my work area. So I'm going to say, okay, and then it's just going to go through its thing. The machine likes to be. It's telling me here that there is some new firmware. Now firmware is something that actually goes into the actual machine. It's not the software on the computer, it's basically the software in the machine itself, and it's telling me to update that firmware. So that means that since they actually made this machine, they've done some upgrades and they're going to tell the machine what those upgrades are. So I highly recommend doing the update. So I'm just going to leave it sit here while it does its thing. Okay, so it's actually finished doing its firmware. You have to wait until this confirm screen comes up. If you try to come out of it too early, you're going to disrupt the firmware updates. Now it's done that, we're going to say confirm, and we are now set to have a play. So I've got my little kit down here. Machine's beeped again. And the first thing I'm going to do is the one project that they recommend everyone to do, and that is to etch on one of these coloured business cards. And they do actually provide a little wolf image to have a go with, which I do already have saved in the computer. So I'm going to come up to my little folder up here and open project. I've got it under my F1, and I have got the wolf business card, and you can see we've got this gorgeous looking etched pattern. I can actually tell just by hovering over this. You can see some of it goes blue and some of it stays black. That means that this image is not grouped together. So to prevent any distortion or accidentally moving stuff when I shouldn't, I'm just going to highlight the whole lot and say group, and now that means the whole lot is together, and it doesn't matter what I do, it's going to stay as one. Now with my little business cards, they are approximately 54 millimeters wide. So if I just actually highlight my wolf, I can see the wolf is only 50 centimeters or 50 millimeters wide. So we're going to be okay to start etching on here. He's 77 high and my business cards are about 86 mil high. So we're fine to start etching on here. You can always resize them if you want to, but let's get this into the machine and see how we go about etching on the business card. Let's do it. So the first thing we're going to do is pull up our shield here, and we can see we've got our laser dots in there, and I'm going to put our card in the middle, roughly in the middle. We'll get it all focused in just a moment. Now you can see that our red and blue laser dots are very clearly separated from each other, and what we need to do is actually focus this first. You can do it through the software, but it is much easier to do this manually. What we want to do, we want to come up to this button on this side of the machine on the top right hand corner. It's got a blue light around it at the moment because we are linked through to the software, but this sticker on the side of the machine, it does give you lots of information about what the different colored lights and things mean on them, so don't ever remove this sticker. If I actually lower this down so we can see what's going to happen, if I turn this button to the right, you can see that the carriage starts moving up, and if I go clockwise, it starts taking it back down again. Now if I raise cover up, and you can see if I turn this anti-clockwise, you can see those dots are starting to move closer together, and what we're looking for is for them to align over each other, and that means our laser is now centered for the height of whatever project we've got here. If we just take this away momentarily and perhaps put something a little bit deeper, you can see that the dots are no longer lined up. So we'll take that back out, pop in our card, and then we will start working on a project. Now for anyone that has watched my videos on the M1 machine, you'll know that one of my biggest gripes about it is how difficult it is to line things up. There's a little bit of a trick. You have to learn your machine, have to learn how the camera fisheyes and things like that. With this F1 machine, lining things up on your projects is so much easier. It doesn't have a camera so you can see your work, as you could see on the screen. It doesn't actually show you the work area on the screen, but it does give you excellent framing capabilities, so you can really test where things are on your screen. I'll show you what I mean. To do our framing, we're going to use the framing feature in the software, but before I go much further, I am actually going to define this as the black metal business card, so that when we actually highlight this, it's come up with all the parameters that we're going to use for doing a score outline on here. You could change it to engrave, but I think I want to see how this is going to be if we score it. It's telling us it's going to use the blue light laser or the diode laser, and it's already got those power and speed set in here. So this is one of the projects they know definitely works at these settings. To do our framing, we are going to come down to the bottom here, and there are a couple of options. So if we click on our little three buttons here, you can see we've got our framing settings. Always keep this power to low so we're not actually marking our surface. And then we've got two different options. We've got rectangular and we've also got outline, and I'll show them both to you. We'll start with rectangular because that's the one that's highlighted. We're going to click on framing, and it's going to be very hard for you guys to see, but there is a little blue rectangular line going around here, and it's not very well centered. I'm just going to say stop framing. Now there are two ways we can do this. We can either keep juggling it around on our board like that, click framing and see what happens there, and now we're like too far this way. So what I'm going to do instead is just highlight my image. I'm going to use my keys and I'm just going to shuffle it along until I'm happy with where it's placed, and then say stop framing. Now the other option, because the rectangle can be a little bit harder to see, let's put that back in center. I'm going to click on our little three dots and I'm going to say outline and framing, and now you can see where that wolf is going to frame on our business card, and that is looking really good. Now the next thing I'm going to do is turn on the desktop air purifier. So just on the back we have got our switch. It's going to beep. I've got my fan up to high because we're going to be using our blue light laser. Then on the front you can see we've got a couple of different light buttons and a button in the middle. Now this one is the one that's highlighted right now, and it's telling me it is connected to that F1 machine and will start automatically going when the machine does. If this button is highlighted here, it means it's not plugged in with the USB cable, but you can still operate it manually by pushing that button, but this is actually all connected. Let's get this one engraved and see what it can do. Now for safety I am going to pull the cover down, but you still will be able to see what's happening. Now to do this, I am going to click on process. It's going to bring the image up and we're going to click on start. Now to get it to go, we're going to push this button on the side and off it goes. I'll say okay once it is done. And we'll lift our thing up here and let's take a look. Can't pick it up, but there is our wolf. How gorgeous does that look on there? It is so precise and crisp and clear, and it's got such a beautiful depth of etching on there. So like when I did the unboxing of the M1 machine, I did leave some of the noise of this machine in the video. The reason being is because when I watch a lot of these unboxing videos for these machines, people are cutting that noise out, and it can actually be a bit of a deterrent or even impact on people's lives, these noises, especially if you're living, say, in a flat where the walls are really thin. You need to know whether or not these machines are going to disturb your neighbors or even children that you might have sleeping in the house. Now the majority of the noise for this machine was actually coming from the desktop purifier, and as I said, it does run for 30 seconds after it has finished doing the job itself. So that is the main cause of the noise, but it really isn't for very long, because if you saw on the screen, this took 12 seconds to do, which really is not very long at all. So it is super duper fast. So this is one of the projects that they do suggest you do, and it has sort of like the time of how long it should take. But just to prove to you that this machine really is that fast, I am going to etch one of these key rings. These are the key rings I've been giving out to my Pamper Club members, and when I do these on the M1 machine, this one side of the key ring takes me approximately 13 minutes, and I say approximately, it takes me 13 minutes and 43 seconds. Let's see how long it takes on the F1. Now I do actually want to make a couple of these, so I'm going to show you how to use this little jig tool so you can do several of these in quick succession to each other. Let's get it set up. So we're going to take our little jig, and you can see there's lots of holes going all the way around the edge here, so you can put this wherever you want. You can start it on the outside, or you can put it in the middle, anything like that. I am going, well, this has actually just turned itself off, so we're going to flip it off at the switch because it's gone into its sort of quiet mode. I am going to line this up. Let's just put it there for now. It's probably also a good idea to turn the laser off when you've got your hand under here, so those lasers aren't touching your skin. I've got that now securely in place. I'm going to put our machine back on, and you can see that our laser's still kind of lined up. What I am going to do is just put my block under here. You can see with the new height, I'm just going to turn my little bit round so it sits nice and flat. So now we've zoomed in, you can see that the lasers aren't quite now lined up to each other, so I'm going to just turn it anti-clockwise. Is going to take them further apart, and then clockwise is going to bring them back up and onto each other, and they're now nice and aligned. And what I'm going to do is now just push my little key ring into the back there. I'm just making sure I have got it the right way round. So now that it's pushed in the back there, I already have my image on the screen here. I am just going to bring it up just a little bit. I'm going to do my material as the basswood ply because I know that was what was working on the M1. So we've got that. If we highlight it, it's going to tell us to do our scoring. We're going to use a blue light and we've got our power and speed. I actually did it as engraved when I was doing mine, so I'm going to swap that over to engraving. Again, it's still using the blue light, and we're going to do our framing to see where this is on here, and I'm going to do it as rectangular framing, and you can see it is well off. So I'm just going to grab my image on the screen, going to move it across, do my framing again, and while it's still there, that's looking a bit better. I'm just using my arrow key to do some of those finer adjustments, and I'm pretty happy with where that is now sitting. You can do, as I said, the outline, but I think in this case that rectangular framing is the better option because you can see it much better. Let's slide our casing down, and then I'm going to click on process, start, I'll push the button, and away it will go. So if you remember, I said on the M1, this was taking me 13 minutes and 43 seconds. And if you look at the time on here, it has taken me 13 seconds to do. Now the best thing is I can now grab another one of these blanks. We'll turn it so it's nice and flat. I'm going to line it back up in there. I'm going to push our screen down, and then that button that's on the side of the machine that we're using as the turn dial, if I push that twice, off it goes again. And there we go, we now have two, and I can keep doing that. I can put another one in and set it off going again and not have to worry about aligning them up every single time. It's going to always be perfect placement as long as I am using this jig in here. So at the start of the video, you saw that this plate that's in the bottom of the machine is actually removable, and there is a reason for it to be removable. I mean, I could actually now just etch on the surface of my work area here, but it also means that if I have got projects like this chopping board here that I want to do a pattern, you know, a little bit further down, or maybe it was even bigger than this, I can actually take the machine and my board here, and I can sit the machine on top of projects and work my way through them. So that actually gives a lot more flexibility with where you are doing your etching on your work. So I've recently started baking again, and one thing I didn't have was a cookie jar. So I bought one for us, and it's got this really boring lid that goes with it. So I'm going to etch something on here for us. Now it does actually sit on the surface of this one, but for the purpose of this exercise, to show it actually sitting underneath here, I am going to put this underneath. So one thing you need to be really aware of is that the machine is actually heavy at the back. So if you don't have enough support at the back of this machine, it will tip. So I've actually got these two bits which come with the machine, which are the same height as my little lid here. I'm going to put that at the back to give it some extra support. And then I'm going to sit the machine on top of my cookie lid, making sure that it is fairly centered. That's what this little mark is in the bottom here. Now that I've got all of that centered, let me turn the machine back on. We'll wait for it to start up. You can see we've got our lights, so let's get it focused. We are focused there now. I already have my image here on the computer. I'm pretty sure this is big enough, but let's just double check just in case. So I can actually pretty much bring this up to just under 10 centimeters. I'm going to make this so that it is maybe 80. We'll kind of center it, and we will do some framing, and we'll see looking pretty good. I am actually going to bump it up a little bit because I have got that center mark. Let's just do that. That is looking much better. So we'll stop our framing. I am going to change this to our 3mm bass plywood, and I am now going to lower our shield. So just to protect our eyes, we're going to say process, start. It's beeped at me. Let's go. Absolutely no idea how long this would have taken on the M1, but I am suspecting it would have been at least 40-45 minutes, and this was done in just over 2 minutes. 2 minutes and 1 second. Let's get it from underneath the machine and take a closer look. Okay, so there it is. I am super happy with how the lid of this has come up. Love the design. It was one that I kind of put together from lots of various ones. The detail on those little cookies is absolutely phenomenal. And I will also say that I got very, very lucky using the settings that are already in the machine. The settings, as with all the other laser machines that are actually in the software, are ones that they have tried and proven to work with certain materials. This is not plywood. This is a proper hard sort of wood thing. So I actually did get very lucky that this design worked straight away. If you are making things like this that are not for your own personal use at home, you do generally always have to get at least 2 things and then use one as a testing material and then do the actual project on another one. I just happened to get lucky, and this is for personal use only. I will do another video in the future which will show you how to determine what sort of settings you really are going to use, but for now I do like that basswood setting to do a lot of my wood projects with. Now that we've done a couple of engraving projects, I am going to do a cut one where we'll use this little mat here, and I'll show you how it works. So the next thing I'm going to have a go with is the black acrylic, which comes as part of the materials kit with the machine. Now with the M1, I have never had much success with cutting or working with acrylic. It can be done, but you have to have the right type of acrylic. Certain brands work better than others, and I've just not had much luck with it. So I am keen to give this a go in the M1, and what I'm doing first up is just taking that protective paper off of here, and then we'll get it into the machine. And I already have a design on here which we are going to do. So the next project I'm going to do, we'll do both laser and cutting. So I'm going to use this plate here. You can see that we've got some grooves on here. It's recommended that you put your plate in this way, because as the fumes and smoke build up under here when it's cutting, it can actually then get suctioned up through the fan. If you put it this way, the fan can't pull it from under these grooves. So pop this one in this way like that. We're going to pop our piece of acrylic on the top here, and you can see that our laser dots are already all matched up there. So you can see I already have my design here on the computer. I'm going to make myself a very simple keyring with my star sign on it. This is an image that I got from off of Creative Fabrica, and then I just created the outline using some basic shapes. Now the first thing I'm going to do is come up and define our material for the 3mm black acrylic. And then I'm going to be doing some different things. The outer shape in this little round circle, we actually want that to cut. And you can see that it's brought it over onto the blue light laser, and it's got the parameters that it needs to do that. I am then going to change my Sagittarius. I'm going to say to engrave, and you can see it's going for that infrared laser, and again it's picked the best settings for this. Now the rest of this image down here, I'm going to have as score, so we just get the outlines, and again it's going to stay as infrared with all of its settings. Now that I've got all of that in there, I'm just going to make sure that we are aligned center to make sure it looks good, and then I'm going to group it so it doesn't move around if I accidentally knock it. I'm then going to come and do my framing, and this is not very well placed on here. I know that it is very hard to see when it is on the black. I'm just going to actually move this down to where I want it to be. We're going to go framing again, and that is looking much better on there. Now that I'm happy with that, where that is, again, I'm going to close down our shutter for safety. We'll click start. Again, it beeps, and we're going to push that button. So 1 minute and 48 seconds later, let's have a look. That comes out nice and clean. Oh, look at that. Now, what I do need is a little pokey tool to push out my little hole there. So that poked out really easily, but look how beautiful and crisp and clear that image is. And the etching was done with that infrared laser, and then the cutting was done with the blue. It's come up so good. At the moment, I don't have any hardware to attach this onto a keyring, but what I'd now do is actually put a little split ring on and then put my keyring on the top of here. So it does create some beautiful projects with the acrylic. Alright, so I could keep going with making projects. I've got so many things running through my head that I can etch around the house and for my business and things like that. But right now I'm going to stop there with these 4 projects. I am super impressed with what it does, and I've got some other inspiration from it as well. This Wolf business card, which is pretty much a standard that most people looking at this machine have a go at making. It just shows the level of detail that this etching or the engraving has, and it is super fast as well. Now for me, I've been wondering what to do with these colored business cards that I have accumulated from both of the machines, but actually doing this has given me a few ideas. Often when I'm getting orders coming in, I'm having people say, can you please put a birthday message or a happy anniversary message or congratulations on the baby and all those sort of things into there. And what I'm now thinking is I can use these metal business cards to create personalized messages to go inside of orders, and because it's a nice metal card, they can perhaps actually keep it on the fridge, or put a little magnet on it and on the fridge, something like that. Other ideas I've had for these cards, you can even make little gift vouchers as well for your shop. They don't have to be used as a business card. There's so many ideas now that are running through my head now that I can do them so quickly on this machine. The ideas I was having before, those sort of ideas, were not possible on the M1 because I couldn't take it down the shop to do those customized orders, and they also took a little bit longer than what I was wanting them to. But on this machine, those possibilities are definitely there now. I also love how super fast this machine is, which is proven with these little key rings here. As I said, these take 13 minutes and 43 seconds on the M1 to do just this one side, and then it's something like another 2 minutes. I just put my logo on this side. It takes about 2 minutes to do it. On this machine, that one side literally took 13 seconds. So I reckon doing my little logo on that side, 2 seconds at most, sort of thing. So it is super fast, and the level of etching on here, the degree and the quality of it is exactly the same as when it was coming off the M1. So I really can't tell a difference between that quality of the engraving between the two machines. So I absolutely love how fast this is going. I do love that even though this is quite a small machine, you can still do these bigger projects and even etch in really odd places by taking that bottom plate out. For example, if you had a really big charcuterie board that is bigger than what your M1 or any of your other lasers can actually fit inside, this is then perfect to actually sit in the different places and put your design where you want it to go. It may take a couple of times of moving it around to do different areas of the board, but it is doable with this machine. So that having that sort of function to be able to engrave anywhere on something is perfect. One of the videos I have seen put out by xTool, and its capability to be portable, is that they do things like etch on the side of a letterbox or on the side of like a light switch panel. If you do want to etch your light switch panels, I highly suggest just taking the panel off the wall and then putting it into the machine. But I also don't see how it's possible, because you don't see the extension cables hanging out the machine, and you do have to hold it steady while it's doing its job. So I don't think it's quite as flexible as what some of their demo videos show it to be, but it is definitely portable enough that you can move it around on flat surfaces. So you can do things like etch coffee tables, dining room tables. If you are, say, someone who works building furniture and you want to put your logo onto it, you can use this machine to etch your logo into furniture. People here, or anywhere really, who are creating soap molds for soap makers, you can etch your logo onto the sides of molds that are already made with this machine. So possibilities for this machine in all sorts of industries is really, really good. The other thing I really do like is the fact it does have those two different lasers, the blue and the red lasers. So it does mean that you can do a wide variety of projects, including the acrylic. Even though they say with your blue diode laser, some people say you can actually work with acrylic. As I said, I've never had success with it, but some people do. The infrared laser actually gives a cleaner, whiter engrave on acrylic than what the blue diode does, which is why it uses those two different ones. It also enables you to etch on precious metals like white gold, silver, yellow gold, and all of those as well. Using the blue diode, it's not as defined as it is with the infrared laser. So far I am super impressed with it, and I can't actually wait to get this down to the shop and start doing a few things down there with the machine as well. But as I said, I'm going to stop the demo here. So far I am really liking the machine, and it's definitely something, if you are looking to be able to offer something a little bit different to your customers, you know, down at the markets, and being able to personally engrave jewelry, diaries, because you can also etch on things like craft board and stuff like that, this machine is a really good option for having a look at. On the next time we look at this machine, it will be down at the shop, and I will showcase some of the things that I will be engraving down there. So I hope you've enjoyed coming along with me as I unboxed and set up the xTool machine. If you did, why not leave me a thumbs up and any comments down below. And until the next video comes out, I hope you have a good one, and I will see you then. Bye.